Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, Sleeping Warrior, Refracted Curvature, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah, like you would know, Adam.
Like he would know what? I missed that while I was hustling people off mute.
An inside joke.
Okay, no in jokes, please.
Didn't see no horse's head. I ain't scared of you.
Good pre-show. That was a very interesting discussion about the whys and wherefores of what might happen were the world to wake up to flat Earth tomorrow. Very interesting.
Agreed.
So check it out if you're watching this live. That'll come out tomorrow on Nathan Oakley channel, and it'll be whatever show number this is. I forget what number are we on? 15, 13, 15, 14?
15, 14.
15, 14, uncut. So check out the pre-show. It's a very interesting discussion. Maybe it will continue after the housekeeping questions. We shall see how we get on. Any evidence?
Hang on, Nathan. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
The world wakes up to flat Earth every day because they can't show us our.
Yeah, that's correct. But I mean, in terms of the Western perception, the Western world perception that we're on a sphere, that current paradigm, the conversation started with me saying, I'll always have a show. And John was like, well, no, if the paradigm actually did change, then there wouldn't be a debate, therefore you wouldn't have a show. And I said, well, no, 90% of the time we're doing an educational stream anyway, discussing how and why Earth isn't a sphere is flat. Well, the isn't a sphere and the 10% of the time that is actually challenged disappeared. 80% of the show would remain exactly as it was anyway, but might expand into new realms of discovery about the actual nature of the world, including things like perspective, which are ridiculed because they're hijacked and called Earth curve. Well, that is actually the way we view the world, and that might become an education factor that we certainly would be involved in when it's applied to a flat reality. So, I don't think things would change that much, if I'm honest. It would just be the Life is Short presentation with, coincidentally, Ranty Flat Earth, who calls himself Flurfspective and now ridicules the very concepts detailed for about 6 hours on this very show with one of my patrons, which is Life is Short. So, that would be expanded out, and I said we'd end up with millions of hours of YouTube videos, people detailing how the world actually is perceived, which, like I say, is currently ridiculed.
Well, not only would you have a show, but much like those people who are brought up on stage front and center on TV shows and interviews, this guy or this woman or this book foretold of this, and it was the epic debate show that everyone, laughed at, and they're proven to be true. So you'd be heralded right up number one.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, that is certainly not what I'm looking for. A successful YouTube channel would be nice. Please share the show.
Well, it wouldn't have to be anything you're looking for. It would be just what would happen if the research was done. Hey, did anyone believe it was flat prior to all of us finding out it was flat? And they do the research. It's just common sense what would happen.
Maybe.
Either that or the nut houses would be filled.
But it'd be very gamma of me to a sort of play out those self-indulgent fantasies. You know, I'm the
No,
secret king
we're
that
not.
is going to be.
No one's saying you're doing it. I'm saying that if the world all of a sudden, it's just a natural consequence of, hey, how come no one told us this? Hey, over here in the low corner of the internet, we were telling you. That would naturally come up. We'd do it. Forget about you. We tell them.
Well, even then, okay, we discussed Math Powerland in the pre-show. Well, hands up, who watched a Math Powerland video in the last week?
Not on the last week. In a long
That's
time.
sad, right?
Let
To
me
be
get
honest,
this-
I've only ever watched one.
Let me get
I
it
watched photo or painting last week.
Bastard, you're ruining my point. Okay, so one of us watched a Math Powerland video in the last week. Okay, this is the guy that brought this subject to the world in its modern incarnation. Well, we, who all appreciate this, we're saying, well, if everyone else was like us in the world and appreciated it, they'd come back to us and thank us. All right, like we all go back and thank Math Powerland? I think not.
Yeah, because he looks for it, though. He declares he's the one, whereas you don't.
But he is the one, isn't he? Like,
Yeah, that was my point,
Yeah,
Neil.
but a humble
Exactly, John.
approach.
That was my point.
Well, that's when
I
he
think,
will
Nathan,
get
you've been
his.
doing it every day, haven't you? You've been doing back to back every day, and you've been, your presence has been more known for the flat Earth. I mean, it's even
Shout out to
even
Tommy.
Eddie. What's that guy across the pond has heard of you? Eddie Bravo or something. He goes on Joe Rogan's show. Even he mentioned like you're militant with it, and you've been so like accurate at defining the arguments as they unfold. And holding people to testimony to what they're saying and really dirting a lot of it out, whereas maybe someone else had give you the hint that the Earth was flat or whatever. But I think your experience being on the plane for many years, you just you never looked for anyone else to tell you that. You decided you figured it out for yourself. I don't think you had looked at anyone else to convince you that the Earth was flat. I think you just seen it yourself. So I think that's probably why you wouldn't hold precedent to hear anyone else.
That's not true. I possibly would have never contemplated if it wasn't for Math Powerland saying those words, saying Earth is flat. If he hadn't said those words, I might not be here. That's my point.
Oh, right, really?
Yeah, absolutely, without question.
that's-
I can't go beyond crediting Math Powerland for me finding this information out. If it wasn't for me, I don't know if it was on autoplay or what, but me going, what the hell is this guy talking about? And then listening for a few seconds, and then him detailing how Earth is flat, and me going, holy shit. And then going in and waking up my wife at 3 o'clock in the morning going, Earth's flat. Well, that was as a direct consequence of Math Powerland.
I guess he's the person that just happens to wake you up to it. But I guess that's just one of them things, isn't it? I mean, I don't think fair enough. Then you can thank him for being the word of mouth. But I guess someone had told him before as well.
well,
Do you know what it was for me?
I
Do you know what it was for me?
It was Matt Powerland may have formed the spirit, but this show has definitely sharpened it to a fine cutting edge.
Do you know what it was for me? It was Mark Sargent's Clues, Flat Earth Clues. When I don't know who it was that put them all into one big compilation, but when I watched that compilation of Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues, it was kind of the way he presented it and the that tone that he's got, that endearing tone. And I just thought about some of the things he was saying, and I was like, hang on a second. And then the next thing is 3 months later, I realized that there was a live topic out there. Jeranism was actually live. And I was like, what? I thought it was a historical position. I didn't realize it was current.
See, Anthony, by you saying that, that was for you. Then for me, it was Antarctica Pictures. And for somebody else, it was Sleeping Warrior and his channel. So everyone's going to have their first memory of whatever. Right, so
mine was like, I come onto the internet. I used to watch.
I'm in the middle of talking, Tommy.
I used to watch his videos about that
Tommy,
creationist, and he used to take
You're
the
not here.
mick
You're
out
not
of that
here
guy.
talking, Tommy.
And I used to become an atheist watching
yeah.
them videos. I thought he had a point, and eventually, I then become like a strong atheist. I watched all the debates about that, and I come across flat Earth, and I was like, oh, flat Earth. This, I know the Earth's a globe, like. This is ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? And I saw the people like debating it and stuff. I thought, oh. So I started debating it, and then someone referred me to it, and says, "Oh, why don't you go on Nathan Oakley and talk about it?" And I goes, "All right, cool." So went on there, and then that all happened there. And then fucking 5 years later, I eventually thought, you know what, you guys have got a point. And I think, like someone else said, your testimony to how much work you've done by arguing these things publicly and driving it forward every day, you know, has set you head and shoulders above anyone else that's done, because you seem to be doing the most for it.
I agree, Tommy.
Well, now I know Tommy's fighting style. Relentless. Just go, 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 go.
Okay, do you want to finish off your point, Tenth? Go ahead.
Sorry,
Thank you, Tommy.
Okay.
It's okay. Thank you anyway. I appreciate all the compliments, Tommy. Go ahead, Tenth.
No, I'm just saying, here we are in the present talking about what might happen in the future if it ever should happen, but we got the past to learn from. And what did we learn from the past when something's been going on for a while and everyone's been denying it, and then the person who started it and maybe a few stragglers after that carried that message because that person died off 100 or so years later. Oh my gosh, we've all been like, oh my gosh, you know what? This guy said this 100 years ago, and then only a few people picked up on it. And there was one book written. So they all go and say, do a little research to see if anybody else had talked about this new finding, which they do. And then they start giving credit out. So credit will go out to Quantum Eraser. Credit will go out to your channel. Credit will go out to Sleeping Warrior. Credit will go out to everybody who, while under fire, when everyone was in the globe paradigm, had enough fortitude to keep the message going. That's what's going to happen if it ever happens.
I don't know if I believe that.
I don't know if it requires fortitude. Again, in the pre-show, we were discussing how this isn't stressful. You know, I don't see it as like, yeah,
no, not for you.
Got the stamina.
Not for you. No, Nathan. Again, you can tear this apart in little sections, and you'd have a point. I'm talking about people aren't talking to me about flat Earth. Don't even want to bring the subject up. I'm talking about daily conversations that people have to still stay with their understanding of the nature of the Earth is, while relatives and friends around them, even though they get together for other things, it's not hatred or anything, but there's just an elephant in the room. No one wants to talk about it because you had your talk already and it didn't go good for them, or they think it didn't go good for you, but they're the ones who are quiet. You're not quiet. You still want to have that talk with your friends, but they shut the whole conversation down because it's too stressful for them.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. When you say you've had the fortitude,
well, that was my point.
I see the fighting the opposition point after you've fallen down the hill. In other words, the example you're giving is somebody who's essentially fallen down the hill. Well, after that point, it requires great fortitude to retain a globe argument.
Well, like I said, you can look at it from that perspective, but how about the one on top of the hill who's looking at his friend down the hill and saying, hey, come on up here so we can talk. No, it hurts too much.
If you're on top of the hill, you just think they went behind the horizon.
Horizon's not Earth, Kev.
Boom, boom.
Right. Yeah, but that's what they believe. If you're on top of the hill, you ain't paying attention.
They're doing a John Cena. They're doing a John Cena. They're standing there saying, "You can't see me. Curvature's blocked me. You can't see me." When you can see them, but they're acting like they're hidden behind curvature. They're hiding behind the curve. That's where they are. The imaginary curve.
You got something when people say to you, "Look, talk to me about anything, but don't send me any more stuff about this."
Yeah. Well, they're trying to hang on to the fence at the top of the hill. They don't want to roll down. And if they can, at that point, stop you giving them any more ideas about it. But I think at that point, the seed's already planted. It's already too late. They're already tumbling. They think they're holding onto the fence. And even if they are at the top of the hill holding onto the fence, eventually they'll lose their grip and roll down. When they start to actually contemplate something that they've told you to not talk about, well, that stays in their mind. They can't get rid of it. You can't unscramble scrambled eggs. Shout out to that flat fellow for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Thank you very much indeed.
No, and that's precisely what, that was perfect what you said there, because that's why you should talk about it and then leave it for their conscience and God to sort it out later if they're going to fight it now.
Really interesting subject, though. That was my main, when I brought it up, that was the initial thing, is this is an awesome subject.
Well, yesterday's show was one of the best shows ever. It was so much education coming through the airwaves, so to speak. I mean, Sleeping Warrior did a great presentation. Adam came on, and then the subjects covered. I mean, it was wonderful yesterday, and there was no Glober there to distract or to. I mean, the show will go on no matter what, because as we know, it's an educational channel, and you learn more here than you do in the schools.
When John just said then that it's a really interesting topic, he's so right. But I feel personally, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like robbed that when I was like 13, 12, 10, the age of learning in school, I feel robbed that I didn't get the opportunity that I'm having now as an adult to ask these questions back then to a teacher and ask them, how do we have gas pressure without a container? Because can you imagine if Conspiracy Cats really was your teacher and you were the age of 12 or 10 and you're putting him in the corner as a student and you're saying you can't do that, sir, that's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. And he's going to go, that's not in the national curriculum. How can you be arguing the second law of thermodynamics? And obviously that's just going to make society start to question what's going on with the education system, such to the extent that you're going to be like putting the teacher in the corner and battering him. It's like, metaphorically, of course. But that, I feel as though I was deprived of that when I was younger. And I feel angry that I'm only learning that at late 30s, early 40s. It's an outrage, in my opinion.
Well,
I mean,
you were, Anthony.
My teaching to flat Earth was very brief. It was like, they used to think the Earth was flat, and then basically, Christopher Columbus went over the hill and he saw the boats being over the horizon, and he said the world was round. So he went across the ocean and proved it. And that's the story I got taught in school. And there was no like, oh, you know, the Egyptians thought it was flat, or all the other sort of cosmologists thought it was flat. You know, it wasn't none of that backstory was ever taught to me. It was just a very straight black and white picture. Everyone thought the Earth was flat, and then everyone thought you could fall off the edge. And then Christopher Columbus was courageous and went out and actually discovered that you can go around it. And that's how we know the Earth's round. So that's kind of I kind of went with that, like most people did, and most people do, and never really give it a second thought. But I'd love to have learned about how all the Egyptians looked at things, and you know, when learning about zodiacs and learning about, you know, when someone's born and stuff like that, I do see common characteristics. There's some sort of mystique about it, but we've been taught not to really think about the spiritual world. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of people do feel spiritual naturally, even though they don't follow any religion, but they're just naturally spiritual because of something that's like, you know, that we can't put our finger on. And that's because a lot of it's been, you know, we've been told that we just come out of existence, expanded into everything today because gravity pulled things together, and, you know, therefore no God did it. It's just, you know, gravity and reactions of chemicals over millions and millions of years. Millions and millions of years of ingredients of a cake will always be ingredients of a cake. You know, you need someone to put that together and mix it up to make the cake and to bake it and put it in certain conditions to make it what it is. Otherwise, you just got ingredients. And ingredients adding billions of years don't do nothing to it. Because remember, only one pair of hands at work is more useful than, you know, than prayer will ever do. So get to work.
Anyway, what I was going to say, the Sleeping Warrior is that
before you do, functional sequence specified complexity is what you're talking about.
Nathan, you're quite quiet. I don't know if it's just me, but you seem like you're a 5 compared to your normal 9.
Oh yeah.
In me?
No. Oh, yeah, obviously, Tommy, you.
No, I'm not going to adjust. What I'm not going to do is adjust my volume again.
Don't.
And end up arguing for 5 minutes.
You're leaning back. Right. Inverse square law.
Tommy thinks that I was talking to him when I started it off with Nathan.
Sorry, mate.
Just the inverse square law. If I sit up normally, as I do for my intro, this is where I'm sat, right? Nice and clear.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I sit back, I'm now twice as far away from the mic. Inverse square law.
Okay. He still seems quiet though.
Okay, look, I'm fine.
Candelas as well.
We got 2 sound Nazis now. Anyway,
I'm quiet when I'm quiet. This is me talking at a relatively low volume, right? But I've got to have enough dynamic range so that if I start shouting at you, Anthony, it doesn't distort. That's all it is.
Can you all stop over talking Tommy, please?
The other thing I've learned is that when something like that happens, when everyone laughs at the same time from 3 lines, that obviously increases the overall energy that goes into OBS and the overall line at the end of the mix chain, which increases the overall output and can push things into distortion. So I've got to have quite a lot of dynamic headroom, far more than I ever anticipated, because there's a lot of people that potentially could be all talking, creating energy all at the same time. Anyway, don't worry about my dynamics, Anthony. It's not your worry.
Right.
Go ahead, Ted.
Thank you. Adam, that was a great line. So anyway, Sleeping Warrior, you are getting revenge, because what you just said is what we all went through, where we asked the teacher something, and then of course we get shut down. But now you're much older, much wiser, and now you realize the game that was played on kids who are naturally curious. And just this show and just what happened now should be how a classroom setting should be, where everyone gets to ask questions. Their curiosity is met and answered, or maybe no one knows, there's still a search. But the whole point is that's what happens on the show. So, when it comes to math, Adam's the guy, because I don't understand a bit of math the way he does. And so we always go to Adam for math, right? And so everyone's got their strength. Yours is gravity. So imagine a classroom setting where it was allowed for tough questions, but you couldn't get shut down. And everyone would explore it. Everyone would find out either there is no answer yet, there might be an answer in the future, or this is what it is. And that's what we're experiencing here on this show. That's the attraction of the show. It's not the dumb ballers who come here with their idiotic claims, and after they get refuted, they still keep their idiotic claims. That's just funny. It's just funny to see that and sad at the same time.
Well, you want to hear something funny? My son is 9. He's in 4th grade, and I guess he pays attention a lot more than I think, and he's heard me discussing this topic. And I had a parent-teacher conference a couple of weeks ago where I come in, and she was they addressed that he was a flat earther, and she was like, "I don't know what to say to him. I don't know," and I was like, "Then just admit that. I'm not going to tell him that it's not."
Interesting that she felt obligated to say something in the first place. I mean, if somebody came in with some kind of, let's just say, I'll use the phrase that they would use, some kind of radical, far-out theory of something, I just probably wouldn't want to speak to them. But I wouldn't go around and say, "Oh my God, I don't know what to say to that guy." I just take the quiet pill and just sit there quietly and just listen.
Hold on.
Laugh about it later on if that was what I wanted to do.
This is a religious belief. Heliocentrism is a religious belief. It is akin,
It is.
comparatively akin, in a Church of England school for a Muslim to come in and the Muslim to start detailing things that are against the general teachings of a Church of England school, and the teacher to say, "I don't know what to say to him. He's a Muslim.
Exactly.
I don't know what to say to him."
I prefer to use the football analogy because it's a lot easier to relate to, because like with the religion thing, it's so personal to so many people. But if you have, like, say, for instance, a Chelsea fan and he walks into a Man United camp and he starts preaching the blue word, he's going to get bricks thrown at him pretty quick, right? It's the same thing in this topic.
Well, Anthony, I think what you did with those 2 students in a live interview on the streets is epic. It's still one of the best shows I've ever seen that you've ever put out, because here you are talking to two young people who are in the system of education in the universities, and you are just way over. They have never encountered anyone like you, and I mean, it was awesome. So kudos for that. That's what's happening here.
Well, see, the only reason I bring it up is my 9-year-old child, just from listening to bits and pieces of, when he's been out of school, of hearing me talk and listening to the things that I listen to, well, it is able to explain why it's flat. He can go into detail about a tangent plane and the measurements involved, and the teacher don't know what to do with that. Hell, I don't even know what to do with that. My kid's smarter than me.
When you tell kids that triangulation requires 3 straight lines and emphasize the straight, and the minute they start talking about GPS triangulation, that is, once someone says that to you and you think about it from the different perspective that you don't get taught, all of a sudden it makes perfect sense. And that's that intuitiveness that children spot very easily. Most adults can't even see it. Look at like the likes of Dawn Treader, for example, or a Kumo virus. No matter how obvious and intuitive it is and slaps him in the face with violence, he's still going to reject it because he doesn't want to believe that it might, or he doesn't want to accept that it might actually be true. He will always ignore it. And that's what children don't do. They realize the intuitiveness of facts like that and they go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective. But that's what the beauty of that's why what's his name said, Socrates said that give me a child, or it might have been Aristotle, give me a child to the age of 7 and I'll give you the adult. That's because when they've not had that pollution of the system in the mind, that it's that bareness, that I don't know what the right word is, but the pureness to it, that mind, until it gets in the system. Once it's in the system, it's messed up.
You're talking about programming. They're not programmed, and all of us were that way, and some of us are still that way, and we fought it all the time. And so we knew something was up. We just didn't know what was up. But now we know what's up. But that's why kids are great, because I got my grandchild here with me, another one from last week, and just it's intuitive, like you said, about everything. Sees me on the tractor and starts asking questions, and it's just an adult would never talk that way, and because they're still curious, they're not programmed.
Quick shout out to Godzilla37 who says there is only one thing the globe model can't stand up to, and that is scrutiny. Thank you very much
By
for
the way,
chat.
I've just thought of something massive, right? There was a Sky Television technician dealing with next door but one neighbour's house yesterday, and I was talking to him, walking the dog, the dog that's not dead. And I was talking to him, and I says to him, hey, listen, they need a line of sight, don't they? And he said, yeah. I said, how do you know what it is that you're looking at is actually a satellite? And he was like, as opposed to what? I said, well, bus or a tree or any other inanimate object or even a reflection of a signal. I said, how do you know that it's actually that? And he starts going into it, and I says, and basically the point of what I'm getting to is that he pulled out this little device and it gave him an approximation of where the satellite, in quotes, was on the horizon or just above the horizon, right? And I says to him, I says, how accurate do you need to be with your signal when you're aiming your satellite dish? I said, how accurate do you need to be? He said, very. I said, like, how much? I said, like, is it like fractions of a millionth of a centimeter or what? And he said, if you have a windy day and it moves your dish, you will lose signal. And you're moving your dish like, what, a couple of millimeters? You'll lose the signal because you're not getting it you're not close enough to the thing. And then I started thinking about the effects of refraction and obviously how much it varies on their model. It continuously varies, like up and down. And Rumpus will tell you that it's only fractions of a degree. But over that distance, that's a huge amount of like movements that isn't possible if you're receiving a satellite signal from a satellite dish or a satellite thing in space. That's incredibly precise. It needs to be locked onto it with a precision that a wind can move it off. And I thought, if you think of how much movement a wind can create on a satellite dish and how much refraction that they claim that their model's doing, bearing in mind that the signal is coming down from a height into a more dense medium and it's continuously curving at a magical, wonderful rate that fluctuates massively to make it look flat at times. Satellite TV would never work if what they're telling us with respect to light and refraction was as variable as it was, because it would be continuously missing the house because it's always varying around it but never really hitting it. It's just nonsense.
Hey, Anthony, I've got a regular old antenna on a 15-foot pole, galvanized pole in the backyard, aimed, and you can get this app that tells you where the towers are for that kind of signal, if you're going to use in that old-fashioned, rabbit ear type of thing. And so this is an HD antenna. So I aimed it there, and I positioned it in place, came in, hit the search thing on the TV. It's searching for these antenna TV signals. It finds them. Again, free HD TV just off the rabbit ears outside. And so one day it was really windy, and I went to it, and it was not there. I go, wait a minute, what happened? I look at the antenna, and the wind had shifted it. So I went there and I turned it back to its original spot, which I marked with a marker, and then voila, it worked. So you got a point.
Yeah, satellite television could not work if refraction of light was bending light that much that it was continuously varying. It would always miss the house. Sometimes it would pass through it. Rarely would it stop on it, but it would be continuously varying. And it's like, this is nonsense.
Well, let me clarify. Refraction of light is not nonsense. Refraction at the rate of 7/6R is nonsense.
Apologies, that is what I meant. 7/6R, yeah. Continuously variable 7/6. That makes it look flat all the time. Yeah, that's nonsense.
Well, that's great. 30 minutes into the show, we haven't asked a housekeeping question. Who says the show's going away?
Well, let's get on with it then.
No, I'm not complaining. This is great.
Well, I did have a question as Tony's here. If the world did change and accept its flat Earth, Tony's going to have to come up with new housekeeping questions, unfortunately.
Well, there wouldn't be any housekeeping questions necessary then, would there be?
Well, that was my point. What would they be?
Any evidence of where Rumpus is? Any evidence of Brundle? Yeah, they're all
Any
in
evidence
the
of super
house.
chat for all these ballers that get paid to lie to people with the convenient lie?
Hold
Any
on.
evidence of those super chats anymore?
Who gets paid to what? Oh, you're talking about the YouTubers. Fair enough.
Yeah, like the flat Earth gets paid literally super chats for people to tell, for him to tell them the convenient lie that they want to hear.
That's
there
what
is
they
a
say about
market
us.
for that.
That's what they say about us. They say over on these crazy conspiratard flat Earth channels, they get paid. People give them money to lie about Earth being flat.
No way. They say that about us.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, we can identify and particularize exactly the lies that they preach. Yet when it comes down to it, they can't do anything to point out any lies. All right, we might make a mistake periodically. We all do. We're all human. And when we do, we go, oh, fuck, bollocks. Yeah, okay. Or we just ignore it and then hope it goes away. But we can point out hundreds of lies on their side. The biggest one for me is obviously gravity. It's not a force. And obviously Newton's first law of motion on their model requires that you have a force to have acceleration. Well, if gravity is not a force, then what's accelerating these matter? Oh, well, and then they start calculating it using Newton's second law. And before you know it, they've got a force again. Nah, but that's the lie.
Well, they're saying ours is lies because it doesn't line up with the education system.
Yeah, maybe it's because the education system's telling children a one-sided view that is polluting their mind, and that's the reason why it doesn't line up with it, because we're saying, hang on a second, this is nonsense.
Well, imagine a child, since John shared his story of the 9-year-old, imagine even his son, his child or somebody else is saying, well, you know, teacher, you're going to need R for that. And then they're stuck even more. I mean, this is where this is going. Kids in school are going to say you're going to need R for that.
That would be nice. Slow motion or slow-mo moon buggy says, thanks. Okay. Well, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
That's what my son did. He pretty much demanded that the teacher give him the measured radius value and the method for it before she could continue talking about how it's a sphere.
How old is your son?
He's 9.
Oh, get him.
Is he with you or against you, or is he just testing it for shits and giggles?
No, I guess he's because I tried to throw him off. You know, I told him, I said, only idiots believe the Earth is flat. You know, to test him. And he was like, well, I don't believe it, Dad. I know it. I was like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? I'm sorry for cussing. Apologize.
You'll have to be careful though. He'll get kicked out of school for being a disruptive influence if he carries on attacking the teacher like that, because they can't have truth seeds coming out in the classroom.
Yeah,
Well, that's
again.
what I was trying to explain to him is just to be quiet.
Yeah, again, this is the same comparison. So the Muslim child comes home and says, I spoke about Allah, and the teacher says, I don't know what to do with you. And the parent says to the Muslim child, just don't talk about the very nature of what makes you you. Just don't talk about it. You might get in trouble. Well, yeah. Why? Well, because the current paradigm is a heliocentric paradigm. So you better not talk about the obvious and point out that they're just assuming something that can't be measured when they detail their religion, because that might get you in trouble. You know, you've just got to put your head down, listen to them babble on incessantly about something that they can't prove that's being taught to you in a school. And when you say you can't prove it and they tell you they can't cope with that, you know, just hope it doesn't get you a detention.
You're right. I'm going to change what I said to him. But if he wants to challenge it, that's his right. I kind of feel bad about it
No,
now.
it isn't. Not in a comprehensive school. Incorrect. That's not what he's there for. You want him to challenge stuff, stick him in a private school. You want him to comprehend stuff, stick him in a comprehensive school. If he's not comprehending what they're telling him, then he's failing. That's the bottom line in a comprehensive school.
No, he is comprehending. He is comprehending it. He's just not believing it.
He doesn't need to believe it. He needs to be able to repeat it.
Comprehending it.
He needs to comprehend and repeat. That's it.
Well, he can do that. He can answer the questions right.
Perfect. That's
But
all he
when
needs.
she's talking about it, but when she's talking about it, he just asks questions that she can't answer, and she's like, it's making her look bad in front of the class.
Well, that's a testament to what will be happening in schools all over the place. You know, your kid is by Nielsen ratings. Oh God, go on, whoever it is that's decided to.
No, that was me. I'm sorry. You want to finish, or I'll go?
In comparative terms to Nielsen ratings, your kid represents 25,000 of the kids. So you've got a comparison where he doesn't just represent himself. There's a lot of other kids that are going to be doing the exact same thing. You're not the first parent that's told me this. It's not the first account I've read about it on Facebook that my wife shoved under my nose either. This is not uncommon. But that's a big problem for the give up.
Is that true? That's not uncommon? I mean, is that really true? It's not uncommon?
That's true. I've heard plenty of accounts of people telling me about how they have had kids that are essentially, depending on which side of the argument they're telling me it from, disrupting the class because they're a flat earther and asking questions that can't be answered, and the teacher can't cope with it. Almost pretty much identical to what you're saying. You're not the first account I've heard. Far from it.
No.
Okay, so what I was going to say is that's what happened to me when I was in school, when I was challenging my teacher, who said, look, he doesn't even believe, he says, I don't even believe it, but I got to teach it. And so I was less knowledgeable then, but I had the obvious knowledge of, hey, that can't be true because of this. It was so limited to what I know now. So where I said, look, I'll answer the questions on the test, but I don't accept it as true. He says, that's okay. I'll pass you. Just answer the questions. And we know you don't believe it. Exactly. He says, we know you don't believe it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You don't need to believe what's being taught to you. So I remember getting kicked out of a religious education lesson in the first year of secondary school because I challenged some of the stuff that was being taught based on other lessons I'd had literally the same day. There was conflicting information, and I was kicked out of the class. But I learned a difficult lesson, which is to say that if you're being taught it, you're not expected to believe what's being laid down. You're just expected to be able to parrot it back. If you can do that, you'll pass and show that you can learn and comprehend, so that it can put you into a work setting, and you're not going to question the validity or the morality of what you're doing. You just do it, go home at the end of it. That's it. Can you do this process? Listen to what I'm telling you to do, repeat what I've told you to do, then go out and do what I've told you to do, having listened and repeated it. If you can do that, you'll do well as a worker bee. And that's what you need to be if you're coming out at the end of a comprehensive education structure. Can you listen, comprehend, and then function with the information that's been given to you? If you go into a work setting and you say, I question the morality of using this particular chemical in this process where we produce this item. Just turn the machine on and press that button. No. The chemical property in this particular chemical is going to cause all sorts of problems for the end user 30 years down the line, and it's definitely not biodegradable. You're fired. Get out. You're just supposed to be turning the machine on. Do you see where I'm going?
I remember when I asked my history teacher. I don't remember exactly what it was now, but it was something to do with the beginnings of World War II. And I remember she said something, and I said, "How do they know that?" And her answer back to me was, she said, "I don't know. I'm just telling you what to learn, what you need to know." And that was one of the things that made me question, like, well, if she doesn't know how they know that, I can't remember what the issue was now, but it was something to do with World War II and Hitler and something along them lines. It doesn't matter. Point was, her answer was, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I've got to tell you for the purposes of like the syllabus and the teaching you stuff. And I just realized that if she doesn't understand this and she's just spitting it to me, how am I supposed to understand that? And there is no way that you can understand something if the teacher doesn't understand it herself.
Nathan, well, how are things? Hey, everyone.
Hello, Brian.
What advice were you giving John there about his lad at school?
That he needs
I was listening to the show.
Okay, my advice would be that you don't necessarily need to believe what's being taught to you. You need to be able to comprehend what has been taught to you and parrot it off verbatim on a piece of paper at the end of the term, or whatever you guys call it, semester or whatever. At the end of that process, you need to be able to repeat what has been told to you. It is not a necessity for you to believe it.
Exactly. The purpose of you being there, the purpose of your children going there is to go and get credits, certificates for society for them to function in the system. That's its purpose. The comprehensive thing is to see how good a worker bee you are. The purpose of your kid isn't to go there, and then your kid isn't going to bring down the system, change the system. They're just going to piss the teachers off and get worse marks. So my boys have just finished. One of them's just finished his exams, and he was taught to repeat, because that's the purpose of the mark. That's what you're going to get, how well you repeat. Outside of him getting that particular certificate, I'll support his critical thinking, and he has plenty, particularly political. You get on with him, 10th. Yeah, but that's not for him to be doing at school, because it will not benefit him at all. So the way we took it was go to the certificate school, get the certificates on what you need to move forwards, and keep your opinions and use them in your own life. But you don't have to thrust them down the throat of some poor, as Tony said, some poor little sap who, frankly, when you do push it, goes, I don't know. I'm just told I have to teach it you.
Yeah, certainly not the case in a private school setting. So I was privileged enough to have a private education at a certain point in my life, and that is not how they do things. Now, at the time, I was too young to appreciate that was the case. But when that school shut down, I had to go into a normal high school setting and realise very quickly how different things are. What they are preparing you for in a comprehensive education. You know, and I very quickly realised how much easier it was, how much less brain power was required to not question things. When you were taught about logic, you were expected to question what you were being taught. It was a very different type of education. As soon as you go into a comprehensive education, I thought, this is much easier. You mean to say that you just tell me what's on the blackboard, and if I can just literally repeat it word for word, I'll pass? Well, that's easy. Yeah, I can do that with my eyes closed. I don't even need to be here. Just give me the homework at the end, and I won't do it. I'll read it, and then when it comes to the test, I'll parrot it back on the test. No homework required, no need to be in the lesson. I'll wag off, go and do all the naughty things that teenagers do, spend very little time in the actual school, and pass all the tests easily, because it's not required of anything other than being able to repeat what they've told you. So long as you listen the first time and can literally say it back word for word, you'll be okay. No thought required.
Yeah.
Okay, can I throw a scenario out there? Sorry, Anthony, just very quickly. That's because the only reason I'm cutting in on you, Anthony, is that's why I asked the question when I first came in. Otherwise, I wouldn't cut in on you. What about this scenario, though? When you have 90% of a classroom in time to come, of the kids in the classroom, who don't believe in the globe, but they're all just going along with the nonsense they're being taught. Because that is on the way.
Okay, let me answer.
So do they, hang on, one second. Do they all keep pretending even though they're in the absolute majority?
Yes, they must, or they'll fail. The purpose isn't to get them to question their reality, their expansion of their mind, or their inquisitive nature. None of that is the purpose. Their purpose is, like when I exampled, the guy who goes in, who's just got a job operating a press that presses out Barbie dolls. Yeah? And that's what the guy goes into the classroom at the beginning of his workday for the first time, and they say, this is how the machine operates. Here's the safety aspects. Are you paying attention? Yes, I am. Great. So now you won't kill yourself or destroy the machine. Press this button when this thing comes under that press. Do you understand? Yes. Okay. Any questions? Yes. What about the chemical? What about the biodegradable nature of it? The guy who's running the health and safety course doesn't care, and suddenly that question is costing that company money. Because he's not walking out the door, having listened once, comprehended, not going to kill himself or destroy the machine, walk down the stairs to the machine and start using it. He's asking questions about the chemical, not his concern, right? Little worker bee, you don't concern yourself with the chemical composition of Barbie. You press Barbie. That's your job here. Don't waste my time. Get on with it. Now, if the same scenario was that that person was in the school because he was in the majority of flat earthers, questioning the globe bit, it's like, then you're going to fail, because when you go into the workplace, you're going to be the same as, you're going to be doing the same thing, questioning the chemical like you've questioned the globe. You weren't here to learn about whether or not it was real. You were learning how to repeat. That's all you were really learning, how to repeat. Not the validity of what you were repeating, just can you repeat it or not? If you can't, then you fail. That's what you get from comprehensive education. And if you can't do that, great, teach your kids to understand what's happening. You're being taught how to comprehend and repeat. But what they're telling me is wrong. That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. Can you repeat it? Because if you need a job at the end of it, that's what you're going to need to be able to do.
Well, that's what I explained to my son, was that he needed to be able to give the right answer and that he wasn't allowed to have an opinion until he knew the subject that he was discussing completely. But I think he knows it better than I do at this point.
Doesn't matter
Nathan,
either.
well,
No. Stop.
My point.
No, stop. Got to correct that too. Same scenario. So the guy who goes to get a job on the press is a chemist wizard. He knows everything about those chemicals. Far more than the guy at Mattel that's developed that Barbie doll. So because he's now in a position to know better, he should be operating above his status when he's there to press Barbie. Again, no, that's a fail for the company.
Yeah, but he wouldn't be working at the press if he was that smart, right?
Maybe one day he'll be able to work that press really well because he listened and comprehended, and he'll be recognised as a good worker, and he might make his way from blue collar to white collar with 10 years worth of work and no university degree under his belt, because that is the standards that are laid out and the path that is before him if he's a blue collar worker that's got to press a button, and he needs to comprehend how he's not going to kill himself or break the machine, not how the chemical works, even if he does. So all you people in the education system thinking that you need to tell the teacher how the earth's flat, no you don't. Your parents have stuck you in a comprehensive setting where you need to learn how to comprehend. So just comprehend, repeat, and then get out at the end of it and hope you get a blue-collar job.
All right,
Well,
enough of this crap. I heard enough.
hang on, Neil. Hang on.
They're going to challenge it, though, Nathan.
Neil, hang on.
Kids gonna start up,
Neil, I'm going somewhere with my point. Please, leave me go where I'm going, please. You won't be unhappy, right? Nathan, that we will always have that chemical that we shouldn't have put into the Barbie dolls in the Mattel factory if we always allow kids to just, or tell kids to just ignore and just learn about stuff that isn't real in school. That chemical will always be there as long as those kids always pretend from day one. So that doesn't work.
Yeah, it does.
That's not going to change anything.
Yeah, correct. That's it. Perfect. That won't change things. Yeah, you don't want your press operators to change chemical formulas, Brian. You don't want them to be changing things.
But it's not about but you're missing the point. It's not about the operator of the machine. It's about it's starting at children level in school where they're not accepting that they're being taught something. They're not accepting rubbish. It's like, as I said, if 90% of the class is pretending that it's a globe when they all don't believe any of it, I mean, then that chemical will always be being put into that solution for it to make those things. That chemical will never stop being put in there if those kids keep pretending that they're just going along with it. The whole point of this is to not be going along with it. To change
for us,
stuff.
I'm speaking from the perspective of the control structure. I know you're debating against me and we're aware of what's going on here. But yeah, everything that you're saying is a negative. As a devil's advocate for the control structure, I take as a positive. You mean they're not going to try and alter things? That's perfect. That's wonderful. Excellent.
Well, that's the last thing I'd have to say on it. I'd leave everyone. Adam,
and I agree. Let me just agree with Brian. And I agree. I don't take this stand. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying how it is. And everything I'm detailing, I stand in vehement opposition to, Brian. Likewise, you do too. But that is how it is.
The way to fix this, for me, isn't what's being discussed, which is to have the workers, the children, be the militant ones. There's a similar parallel that's going off right now, and it's parent power that does these things. So those that have been through the system that stand up against the system, and currently in the States and in the UK, parents are standing up against critical race theory being taught to their children. Yeah, the kids have had to sit there and go through it, just like they will always have to. But the way for change isn't to have militant workers. you have to change at the management level. And in this case, the management is us, the parents. And I think, like I said, there's a good example going off. If there's enough groundswell of support that what you're teaching my children is wrong, then people won't tolerate that. But it requires that groundswell before any change occurs. Hence, why CRT was
Structurally dealt with already.
That's a generational thing.
Hold on, that's structurally dealt with. Hold on. Adam, when you got to university, which is what you would require to ascertain a position in management, that would be white-collar work, you'd need your degree to get to that lofty position. Well, when you get to the university, they explain how that system works. Here's what we taught you originally, because we need you to comprehend it. Now we're going to teach you how it really is. It's very different. Now, they don't tell you why. Presumably, they've given you a completely different education. As a good example, because we cover it on the show, gravity. They'll tell you it one way up until A level, then they'll tell you a different way completely at university level. But that is the certification that they require in this work structure that we're detailing on this live show that takes you to the white-collar status. But then you understand something more than the blue-collar do, don't you, Anthony? Don't you, Adam?
Well, then you're superior.
Correct.
You look down on them.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. And these are all within the system. These are all, everything's still within the control. So you like I say, you go up there, you're better than them, and therefore you stay within the confines that the system wants you to do. So I raised CRT in the way public, the populace can deal with it. And that's the only way for real change is for the system to be scared and have to change. Otherwise, it won't change.
But what you all detailed as far as the management structure that you're making the analogy with is you're saying that the adult slaves on the plantation should stand up and say something instead of the children slaves on the plantation. But that's still not the plantation.
The only thing
owner.
that stopped slavery wasn't the slaves being pissed off. It was the slave masters deciding that actually the general populace didn't like this. So steps had to be changed. Yeah, it's the mass opinion that affects change in society.
There it is. There it is. Adam's. Hold on. Adam's got to the nub of it. Hold on. Hello. No, Adam's got to the nub of it. Yeah, you need there to be a disruption that stops the process having its efficiency. So at the moment, if the balance is in the case that most kids in the school just accept heliocentrism, parrot it off, and then they've learned how to listen, comprehend, and repeat, then system working fine. If too many of the kids are disrupting that process, then better just remove that from the education structure altogether. Just remove it at that stage that it's causing a disruption. In other words, if you're learning advanced heliocentrism at age 8, just plant it as a seed at age 4 and never mention it again, because it causes disruption when they're supposed to be learning how to listen and comprehend. They all start giving their worldviews that we're not really that interested in. We just need them to understand, comprehend, repeat so they can be good workers. So you just remove it. You know, if it's becoming a problem, it's not a problem because they have a different view that's contrary to the actual educated point of view. That's not a problem. The problem is the disruption. Then you need to address that problem. Not the problem of the difference in opinion, the problem of the disruption.
Let me apply that real world right now. Right now in England, obviously, we've come out of the European Union. And obviously, there's a shortage of HGV drivers to deliver goods to stores. And rather than fix the problem that's caused the shortage of drivers in the first place, that's what Boris needs to do. He's actually saying, well, we'll just give temporary visas in the short term so that the problems that are there because the majority don't accept the problems that are there and they've walked away from it. The problems range from working conditions to pay conditions to the way they get treated by other people, etc. It's not just about numbers. It's about the problems that are causing the low numbers, and Boris doesn't want to fix the problem. He wants to condone the problems within that nation or within that sector, and open up more people to come in from Europe, which is the very essence of the thing that he stopped when he said, "Let's leave Europe." He doesn't want to fix the problem.
That's another good example, Tony, in terms of the system didn't care about who it was employing, what it was doing, because the masses weren't disrupted. So the control system was in place. The rights of the workers, irrelevant. It didn't matter because things kept ticking along. It only mattered when so many people weren't prepared to do that job for that crapness that the system disrupted, and the masses said to the system, "We're not happy." And then the system responds. Yeah, that's when change occurs. Often, as you see, in a fraudulent way, not to deal with it properly, in the same way as Nathan said, don't deal with the heliocentrism properly. Push it back to the fore, and then carry on. So, I think that's another good example of how and why the system will deal with stuff. But it's never dealing with it for the benefit. It's dealing with it to maintain control.
Adam's on fire today. Kudos, Adam. Well summarised.
I just want to apologise to Neil and Anthony for over-talking them. I just had to get that point out.
Oh, Brian, you missed Tommy in the first half, mate.
Thank you, Brian.
I was going to say, I wouldn't worry. Don't worry.
I know, I heard it.
Got to come a point where the kids take a stand. It's like teaching them, all right, now 2 and 2 is not 4 anymore. It is now 5. Come on, that's ridiculous, Nathan. The kids have a right, if they don't believe what they're being taught, to stand up and challenge the freaking teacher.
No, they do not.
Show me evidence.
No, they don't.
This gravity.
No, they don't. You're wrong.
This curvature.
No, they don't have that right.
What are you talking about? They don't have that right. We're humans. We all have rights.
Right. Currently, in the UK, I don't know about in the States, you have to sign a contract when you go to or enroll your kid in a school. You're contracted with them. They don't have a right to challenge what they're being educated. You're contracting with the school on the proviso that they will provide the education for your child. Not that your child has every right to challenge that. Do you have any... Hold on.
Exactly.
Hold on.
You hit it right
Hold on.
You said
Hello?
education.
Hello?
They're not giving
Hello?
them education.
Hello? Still middle of the same sentence. Hello? Do you have any idea how difficult it is to change an education point in this country? Have you got any notion of how difficult that is? You think the ground level kid that's being educated's got a right to challenge that? Anthony, just let...
I'll tell you why.
Hold on.
If it's not
Oh,
true...
God. This is so fucking hard. Anthony, can you just lay out to Neil how difficult it is to get anything in that regard changed?
Unbelievably difficult. It's outrageous. I mean, put it this way. If you don't wear your seatbelt, it takes the state seconds for them to fine you, to put you through the legal system and to get you in all sorts of trouble. But if Nathan used the word educate, and if it's their contractual obligation to educate rather than indoctrinate, the difficulty that you've got as a citizen, as a person of that contract, to prove that they are not educating you and that they are actually indoctrinating you is so difficult to do because the enemy is the state. It's not the actual party of the contract. You're fighting the system, the belly of the beast, and that is an evil system.
Yeah, but I can refute every bit of that. And Neil, you're going to be happy with this. I know you will. There's that child, that might be your child, but that child already has a contract. And within that contract is something called free will. So you can make whatever contract you want with whatever school you want and whatever state you want. But that child already has a contract with God. And God allowed that child to have free will.
And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!